Any questions? Start over there with Lukey.
Dave. Probably going back to MJ, do you set expectations in terms of productivity? So, for example, if he's an article writer, are you expecting 40, 50, 60 articles a month and pay him accordingly? Or are you saying, I need you to spend 40 hours a week working for me?
In the next module, I'll go through how I manage the staff as well. And you're really lucky that you're sitting next to Ryan just there, because Ryan is Megan version 2.0, Megan 2.0, and he manages all of our assistants. So he'd be a good person to ask. But I'll go through that process when we go through the next section.
Something on that really quickly, you can also assess that throughout the task section of the hiring process to actually work out that, you know, I set you a task to do 3 articles for me as part of this, you know, hiring process. How long did it take you to do it? Is one of the questions I often ask people to actually get an idea that to write 3 articles, it takes them 3 hours. So you can do your mental math going over a 40-hour week, they can get this much work done. Just have that mental idea of what that person's capable of. And as you go, you'll be able to refine what is, you know, on average, you know, how many articles can someone write a week as you define your system.
Do you do the questionnaire part online, or do you do that via email?
Via email. Something to look at online, maybe a Survey Monkey or something like that. We might move that way, but at the moment it's just email.
Thanks.
Just something that I do to pre-screen, and also a question. Something that I do to pre-screen is I say, okay, in order to apply for this job, say on Odesk, you have to set up a WordPress blog. I had a meeting with someone last week, and I want you to send a thank you email for them, and they just do this WordPress blog because it's a good way to get them to pre-screen themselves and jump through hoops. So that's a big hoop and something that really works. But an issue that I had is I've hired someone, they jumped through all the hoops, they worked really well, they worked with me for a few days, and then all of a sudden all these issues started to pop up where they had an issue with the internet connection and they needed to go pay this, and then this happened, and then all this trouble. But the thing is, they're a really good worker and they're really, but the thing is, straight after a couple of days, I've had all these issues and I've hardly heard from them in a week, and I can't decide whether I should cut them loose and find the next one, or whether I should continue working with them.
I'd move on. Personally, I'll just go next.
Hire slow, fire quick. If they're not right and you get the feeling straight up, I'm very lenient, and I hope all of my guys will say that, and I'm very understanding, and if someone says that something issues come up, I'm very understanding, but there's a point where you just have to say, enough's enough, which is, you set them, tell her, say, look, I'm a little bit worried, be honest, just say, I'm a little bit worried about your productivity, I feel like you're not delivering, what I need you to do is make sure over the next week that you show me that you can do this job. And then if she doesn't, then just say, we did talk about this, I'm going to have to let you go.
Okay, it is one of the pros, the reason that I historically have gone for the actual outsourced company that has the office, because they're responsible for the actual resources that the person has to use, their computer, their connection, all that sort of stuff. So that there is a pro to that there's actually someone there on the ground managing that person, being responsible to make sure they actually turn up to work and do what you need to do. Obviously, you pay a slight premium for that because you've got to cover the costs of the project managers at the company, but there are some definite pros to that.
Also, the advantage I find of finding someone that works from home is that some people are slave workers. They love to work. One of my employees, he's on in the morning when I get up and he's off when I go to bed.
Beautiful thing as well.
Yeah, that's it. So there's advantages.
There's pros and cons to everything, absolutely. Yeah. You've got to work out what fits with your process and your business, which is obviously what the afternoon's going to be about.
Thanks very much.
So, yeah.
Ben up the back there.
Dave, one of the things you said was just a couple of other ideas that we might have just from the Samurai and Alliance process. We actually do that pre-screen questionnaire up front, and we'll get, the big thing we do is we try and get heaps of people into it. We don't read any resumes. What we do is we just get stacks of people through it, and you know, the last job we put up, we had 150 people go through the resume, put their profile in, and then we actually have multiple choice questions and written responses. And on the written responses, literally it's a case of if in the first line they can't write English, it's no, and you just sit there and go no, and you knock out all the people that can't write English. Then it's multiple choice, can they pass that? And we get the current, whoever's doing the job the best, we say write the questionnaire, so that, because I suck at, I'm actually not the best programmer, in fact I'm the worst programmer in our company, so we always just try and get the best staff to actually write the questionnaires that the next person's got to fill in. And then the last part of it, which is really hard, is actually trust the process. Like we've got guys, Brent had talked to this, some of our guys are just off the charts brilliant. They've got no university degree. One guy we hired literally had to figure out the laws for hiring a 17-year-old, and he would, at the time, he is equally as good as any programmer in our place because he's actually just gone through all the questions. And if it had been me, I would have been sucked in by the guy with a good smile, with a nice university degree and everything else. And this guy, the thing you've got to understand about programmers is problems that programmers tackle actually have differing degrees of complexity. So they might be sitting there with a whole bunch of 6 and 7 out of 10 complexity problems, and an 8 out of 10 programmer can just run through those no problems. The problem you get is when you get a 9 or a 10 problem, an 8 out of 10 program will actually stew on that for a month, whereas a 10 out of 10 program will do it in a couple of days. So there's actually, if you've got any technical complexity in what you're doing, you've got to have that. That's where brilliance actually matters.
Players versus B players.
Yeah, and the other thing that it's probably just a different spin on that I've never understood is when someone applies for your job and they're massively overqualified, why you wouldn't employ them. Like, I've just never understood that. Like, people always say, oh, they're too, and I've made that mistake once or twice, and it's like, but I'd rather the people doing the basic jobs be adding to the complete intelligence of the organisation and putting pressure on the people that are supposedly above them in the ranks, rather than just to have a whole heap of idiots. You know what I mean? Or just average people. So why not get superstars? And if they, I'll say to them up front, I'll say, what? You've done all this, you're going to drop 40 grand, you're going to do it, why do you want the job? And they go, well, I want to go home and see my kids. Well, cool, I'll actually trust them on that rather than assume that they're going to get bored. Let them make that decision. So.
A couple of things on that. That's how Megan came about. Megan was working a full-time job and she was on 6 figures plus, and she wasn't seeing her daughter grow up. So she came and worked for me because she wanted something a little bit more flexible. So I got that person with an excellent skill set to come over.